Good afternoon, dear friends. Some time ago, you and I discussed the topic of US-China relations, but life is developing so quickly that just a few days later there was a new food for discussion. In 72 hours, the United States of America demanded that China close the consulate in the city of Houston. Obviously, an unfriendly step, obviously a boorish step, obviously a desire to harm China. Let me remind you that Russian-American relations developed approximately according to the same scenario some time ago. Only the reason for their deterioration was different. If you remember, the Russian consulate was closed. And in the same way, 72 hours were given for the Russian diplomats to curtail their activities. But then the liberals explained to us that it was Russia that was pursuing a wrong policy. They allegedly poisoned Skripal, allegedly interfered in the elections of the United States of America. And the US could not help but react to these failures of the Kremlin's foreign policy. Now the question is, what did China do so that the United States of America brought the level of US-China relations to low levels? And they did it very quickly and for no apparent reason. I will remind you of something else back in 2020. 6 months ago, Donald Trump and Xi Jinping signed the first stage of an economic deal with China. And Trump made statements that I love the United States of America. I am for America. Trump said. We love each other. We are different, but we can agree. That is, he was optimistic. Trump is not optimistic now. China is accused of several crimes. After all, the consulate is closing for a reason. Do you think the Americans are claiming that they are simply closing the Chinese consulate because it is bad? No, no, no. There is a whole list of crimes that are very similar in that Russia was accused. Recently, the British Foreign Secretary issued a statement that some mythical Russian hackers were trying to steal the COVID vaccine. The United States accuses the Chinese of the same. They say that two unknown Chinese hackers, who are definitely working for Beijing, tried to steal the vaccine in the United States of America. Leading newspapers write that Chinese diplomatic missions have become involved in espionage. And so the US decided to close the Chinese consulate in Houston. Prior to this, the United States said that this was due to the fact that China was enacting a national security law on Chinese territory in Hong Kong. They already forgot about it. That is, we face a deterioration in US-China relations at the initiative of Washington. I suggest we take a short historical excursion. 1989 Tiananmen Square events. 1 million students, Chinese citizens want democracy. But events are developing according to a sad scenario. Troops, the People's Liberation Army of China, are sent to Beijing. And in Beijing, they were fighting for 2 days. Question. How can there be 2 days of fighting unarmed students with the Army of China? This means that the students are not unarmed, that is, they are provocateurs. Most likely the Chinese are from Taiwan, the Western Special Services. In fact, it was an attempt at a coup d'etat. China harshly suppresses the attempted rebellion, a significant number of people die. How Western countries react? I'll ask the question easier. As Washington shut down Chinese diplomatic missions on its soil in response to the massacre of unarmed students. No, the Americans did not close the consulate. 6 months ago, the United States signed a trade deal with China, forced China to reduce the trade deficit that the Americans have. And then for no reason, nothing happened in China, there were no casualties in Hong Kong, the Chinese consulate was suddenly closed. Why are there such different approaches? In 1989, the United States of America did not perceive China as a competitor. Americans continue to clash the two communist regimes. China is being pushed against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union is being pushed against China. The United States is transferring some of its factories to China in order to somehow repay the Chinese communists for their bad relations with the Soviet communists. Today the situation is different. The United States of America perceives China as a global competitor that has become powerful in a short space of time. That is why the reaction is so incomparably harsh. Closure of the Chinese diplomatic mission. Trump continues to press, he says that maybe we will close some more diplomatic mission. Question. What is China to blame? The answer reminds us of what the Soviet newspapers of 1937 to 1938 said, that these were all spies, robbers, and murderers. About the same, they write about the Chinese diplomatic missions that have been working there since 1979. This consulate was the first to open after the resumption of diplomatic relations between the People's Republic of China and the United States of America. Previously, the number of Chinese diplomats did not bother Americans. Now they express their displeasure and make an unfriendly gesture. There is another version of events, which is referred to in the media. This is a harsh reaction from Washington because China has a treaty with Iran. A few words about this agreement. China signed an agreement with Iran, according to which it will invest about $400 billion in the Iranian economy. This is for infrastructure, transport, oil production, and oil refining. Iran is key. Since the Chinese want to establish a trade route called the Silk Road. And this path goes through Iran. But there is one interesting fact. This agreement was signed between the Chinese and the Iranians almost a year ago. The consulate is closing now. They talk about the secret protocols to this treaty, as if the Chinese combat aircraft, the Chinese army could be on the territory of Iran. But do you know why secret protocols are good? They are secret. Nobody saw them. You can come up with whatever you want. Let me remind you that the legislation of the Islamic Republic of Iran prohibits the presence of foreign troops. But in any case, China is helping the Iranians to get out of the blockade that the Americans are doing. China is not going to give up, but the United States of America is going to continue to put pressure on China. Let's discuss another issue that has to do with Russian diplomacy. Very often and in many respects rightly, Russian politics is accused of being soft. That is, Russia is under pressure, and in response, it applies soft measures. But sometimes Russia is tough. China behaves exactly the same way. It is very difficult for me to answer for Russian diplomacy. I would like our diplomacy to be more aggressive, for Russia to shape the agenda. In China, it seems to me, this is more connected with the mentality. The United States is trying to strike hard. It is a show of its displeasure, it is an attempt to drag China into direct confrontation. The United States is sending aircraft carriers to the South China Sea. If there is a clash there, then war may begin. What is China doing? China is trying to negotiate. China signed the deal that Trump imposed in January 2020. This is a good example for those who believe that an agreement can be made with Trump and the United States. It turned out that it was impossible to come to an agreement with the Americans. China tried to negotiate, signed an agreement. 6 months later, the United States of America actually declared a new Cold War. It was the same with Iran. Iranian nuclear deal was cancelled by Trump. Although the deal was recently signed by Barack Obama. China is trying to avoid a clash, is pursuing a soft policy, but when it is forced, of course, it will respond. I think these measures are not related to the American electoral cycle. Trump is trying to put pressure not only on China but also on Russia. New sanctions have been introduced against Nord Stream 2. The Americans and Trump are personally trying to stop this important economic project between Europe and Russia. The bottom line is that these sanctions were written into the military budget of the United States of America. We were told that the economy is not connected with politics, no state intervention. Now sanctions against companies that are ready to complete the construction of Nord Stream 2 are included in the military budget. European companies have invested many billions of euros in the construction of Nord Stream 2. It looks like a veritable robbery of its European allies. Let's summarize. The United States has effectively declared a Cold War on China. For Russia, the confrontation between the US and China offers good opportunities. Russia's military power is fine, the economy is sad. The United States of America is a military giant, the military budget is larger than the budget of all the leading countries of the world. The US economy also looks very, very good. Europe is an economic giant, but a military dwarf. What is NATO? This is the American army plus the British army, the French army, the German army, in which assault rifles do not hit the target, planes do not fly, tanks do not drive, the combat capability of the army is very low, and the armies of other countries, which are also not very effective. What is China? China is just like Europe is an economic giant, but militarily China cannot challenge the United States of America. Russia is a giant militarily, even if the military budget is less than that of the United States of America, but it is quite capable of destroying them several times. This means that in the military sphere, the United States will not contact Russia. But in the economy, Russia is weaker than Europe, weaker than China, weaker than the United States of America. Therefore, we need to strengthen the economy and closely monitor the development of the situation between China and the United States. Goodbye, dear friends.